Make sure it's recording. Hi, I'm Abby, and I'm here with Allana Pinkerton from Diono.
Good morning, good afternoon, whatever we're doing.
Car seat safety extraordinaire.
Oh, well, that's sweet of you. I guess should we give our official title?
Yes.
The Global Safety Advocate for Diono, and I am a certified child passenger safety instructor. That's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
Yes.
I love it. It must mean you're important.
Oh, no. Just means I got entrenched in a very detailed information and
well, it basically means that you know what you're talking about.
Well, I hope so, and it's more that I care what I'm talking about,
yes.
and I care about your kids. So,
yeah. And I've got Allana and I go back a few years because I've been working with Diono for a while now, and you've been with Diono for a while.
Yeah, 8 years.
Really,
I just celebrated my 8-year anniversary.
Congratulations!
I know,
That's a big thing.
It is big.
So I asked you all 4 questions about car seats and anything car seat related. And so I got some, and then I found some of my own, because when I started looking at some more stuff, I was like, oh, that's a good question, and I like this question. So would you take our questions and help us sort this out?
Yeah, absolutely. I was at a consumer show the other night in Atlanta, and normally they allot for about 20 minutes. For questions and answer, and we went on for 45 minutes, and it seems like once the questions start rolling in, like you have your list here.
Yes,
so,
right.
Yeah,
and people are like, oh,
absolutely.
wait, yeah, I have a question about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I know car seats, I've had a lot of car seats.
Yeah.
And I love Diono car seats.
Thank you.
That's what's in our car right now. That's probably what'll be in there until they're, don't need car seats anymore, which seems like will be
Forever.
I
know. And then you'll look back there and panic when they're not in anything for a little while. It looks weird. It looks really weird once they're 9, 10, 11 years old, when that's the average age that they, outgrow a booster seat. And it looks weird.
They look vulnerable, huh?
They do. Oh. They really do. So get ready.
I'm not ready.
Okay. Fire away.
So, how are we supposed to decide what kind of car seat we need? If we're hopefully we're pregnant,
right?
When we're thinking about this, but maybe we're not. Maybe our child is growing, and we think maybe they're not really fitting in anymore. Or how do we just know what we need?
So let's start with you're newly pregnant or baby's new. Well, you have to have a car seat before you leave the hospital, first of all. So, you have 2 options. You have the infant seat, which is like we call the bucket, and it clicks in the base or it clicks into a stroller.
You know how I feel about
it. I know, super convenient, but this is not everybody, and they make bigger infant seats now, but mine outgrew them in 5 months. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but you need to be careful, and we learn as we grow, right? So now the thing is, if you definitely if you have a C-section, you're not going to be able to carry that infant carrier, and even if you have a vaginal birth, your pelvic floor is really soft and not, strong, and you don't want to be carrying, heavy things for, the first, 12 weeks after, right. maybe longer. But it's convenient, and just don't use it as a sleeping tool.
Right.
We don't want babies always in those seats, but they are convenient. And there are some, that you can use for a long time, meaning a year, possibly a year and a half. And then you do have the option of convertible. It is perfectly legal to leave the hospital with a convertible car seat, just as long as baby's fitting in it and it meets those minimum requirements. Most of us start at 5 pounds. Some go a little bit, not with convertibles, but with infant seats, some go a little bit lower. But hopefully your baby's at an average weight. But they need to meet the minimum weight and height requirement, and there need to be where the straps go at or just below their shoulders. So you can use a convertible. Convertible saves you money in the long run because you can use it for a very long time. So you have those 2 options. And then as far as, do I spend, $80? Do I spend $300? It really is up to you. We all have to meet the same standard, but then what are those other features that you want? Do you want a little more, safety features in that seat? Like for our Diono seat, we have all that extra energy absorbing foam and EPP foam, and even under the tailbone. And do you want your kid to hopefully be more comfortable because we have memory foam? Just those extra, we have the full steel frame. And so, you start leveling up. Now, I don't want to freak anybody out. Most car crashes happen about 2 miles from your house and less than 30 miles an hour. But, we're that what if scenario.
So that's actually now that we're talking. Now you mentioned car crashes, because that was another question that I had. What constitutes a car crash? And because once you have a car crash, you are not supposed to use the car seat anymore. Is
Correct.
that right?
That is correct.
You're supposed to.
Yeah. So it's going to depend on companies.
Mm-hmm.
Different companies have different policies. Some companies just say, we don't care what kind of crash it is. You know, if it's a 10 mile fender bender, that could be considered a crash. They want their seats replaced, no questions asked. Okay. For us, we go with NHTSA's criteria on minor crashes.
Okay.
You probably don't have to replace your car seat. So if it is just a fender bender, the airbags didn't go off, the car could be driven off from the scene, things like that. Or, you know, then you can consider a minor crash as long as the door wasn't hit on the side of the car where the car seat was. You don't see any visible damage. So we go by minor crash, but not every car seat company does. So you really need to check with your car seat manufacturer.
Okay, so that's an individual.
And usually your insurance company, fight them on it to replace the seat if it's deemed, you know, replaceable. Diono has a crash replacement program. So register your car seat, save your receipt, you know, take a picture of your kid in your car seat, just randomly, so you have it on file, and then send us a detailed report about the crash and a copy of the police report, and then we will replace that car seat.
Oh, that's really nice.
As long as the insurance company won't do it, then we'll do it for you.
Right. Yep. Okay, great. That's awesome. Okay, so we've decided what car seat we want. We picked one, and and that was the other thing when you were talking about the infant seats. Is that's something that I think people don't realize is how long the baby is spending in that.
Yes.
Because it's so convenient. It goes to the car, to the, you know, to the stroller, to the whatever, and before you know it, the baby's been in there all day, and that's not good.
It's not good. They could develop, you know, flat head syndrome. You know, there's the debate of what causes hip dysplasia.
Right.
You know, when you have a baby just wedged, because in the infant seat, you're really just wedged in there. And so their legs are just extended out the whole time. So so if these are the legs, there's just no way for their hips to wiggle and develop properly. And so, you know, just like you and I need to get out of the car every 2 hours, you know, take your child out. And unfortunately, it's that third or fourth kid that ends up in that car seat so much because they're on all the errands and the carpool and the soccer games and everything else. So.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So anyway, but definitely don't want to keep a kid in a car seat, and you never bring the infant seat into the house and let the child just sleep in the car seat, because that could be dangerous.
I've definitely made that mistake and learned later that was not a good thing to do.
Right, and so you know we don't hear it as much now as we used to hear. You know, some details about a child. Here's the cat.
Oh, excuse us.
You know, a child slipping down and the chest clip cutting off the airways. And that's why it's not a sleeping device.
Right.
It is just a safety device for riding in the car.
Right. And then I feel compelled to mention the bucket seat. Then you're bringing it into the store and you're putting it into the shopping cart, like seat, like, you know, don't do that.
Don't do that.
That's not safe.
There's actually a sign on there that says not to do it. Just stick it in the bigger part of the basket, and that will save you money because you can't fit as much stuff in there.
Especially if you're going to Target.
Unless you're dumping it all on top of your kids. So.
Okay. So what about well, we talked about the safety features. So everybody has to follow the same kind of safety things.
They do.
So it's not like, you know, there's a car seat out there where, like, if you buy it, you know, you have to worry about your child not being
No, the key
safe.
things to remember, no matter what you spend on a car seat, whether you buy it at Walmart or Nordstrom's, is you want to be sure that it fits correctly in your car and that you'll use it correctly every single time. So let's say you get it, you know, you're using the right belt path, you're, you know, locking your seatbelt if that's what you're using, you're harnessing your child properly every single ride, and that's going to give them the best protection possible. Car seats do a very good job at protecting children. I've seen horrific car crashes with a $60 car seat, and I've seen ours with a dump truck coming at a car at 60 miles an hour, and so they both, you know, performed really good. Well, and great outcomes for the kids.
Yeah, that's good. And that's amazing because, I mean, I'm 43. I'm not that old. according to me.
She's not that old. I'm much older.
But when I was a kid, we weren't in car seats.
You
know
were?
Well, I mean, maybe as a baby.
Yeah, probably.
Before,
I definitely was not in the car seat.
Right. I mean, like, my husband's about 10 years older than me. There's pictures of him when he was born, coming home from the hospital in a cardboard box.
Yes, yeah, or just a little basket. My mom said I was in like a basket, sat on the front seat.
Right, and then I was maybe in something a little bit better than that. But I also remember being extremely young, sitting on the floor of the car on our road trips.
I was helping drive.
Right, so I mean, it is amazing how far things have come.
And that's something we hear all the time. Well, nothing happened to me. I'm like, yeah, well, things were happening to other children.
People,
we just didn't, that wasn't in the media. And, when I first got involved in child passenger safety 18 years ago, there was an average of 3,500 children in the U.S. dying on our roadways. And that equated to over 500,000 being injured. Mm-hmm. And then we didn't really have the stats on the lifelong injuries. I have a really good friend who's an instructor in Wisconsin. She got involved because her child was 18 months old, forward-facing, snowy day in Wisconsin, and she got T-boned. And that child, who is now, I think Brett is like 21, so 18 months to 21 years old, 22, and he's been a quadriplegic the whole time. God. And so, when you think about those lifelong injuries, I mean, that's been quite a life-altering, event for this family. And he's a great guy, but, they've had to sacrifice, and of course, watch him go through a lot, probably 40 surgeries by now.
Yeah.
And just, a difficult life. So, so now the stats are much better. They're still not perfect. If one child's dying, that's too much for me. But we don't have 3,500 anymore. It's really less than 1,000. But still, can you imagine if it's your child that's in that statistic? And so we've done great with the newborns, all the way up through 5 years old. Now we got to get those 5 to 12-year-olds buckled in correctly.
Okay, so that leads me to the next discussion. So you were talking a little bit before, you were talking about buckling in correctly and all these things. What are the mistakes that you see? What are the things that you see of like improper use or
So when I see one thing wrong, I usually see up to 4 things wrong.
Okay.
For at a car seat check, and it's not intentional. It's just some people. I don't know what it is about us humans. We'll read the manual on how to put together our Keurig coffee maker because that's something.
Oh yes.
We want that coffee, but how hard can this be? And throw it in the car because we know how to buckle up, right? So how hard can it be? So number one, I see that the seat is not in tight enough. So a car seat should move less than 1 inch side to side, front to back at the belt path only. Don't grab it up at the top. Don't grab it at the front.
All right.
Right there at that belt path where it's being secured and held down. Sometimes we see where parents want to use too much. So they want to use a seat belt and what's called a latch system at the same time. And if we don't crash test it that way, then we don't want you to use it that way because we don't know how the seat is going to perform. Then sometimes we see the belts routed in the wrong belt path. So when you have a convertible, you have 2 belt paths. So you have a rear facing and a forward facing. And then sometimes we see those belt paths routed the wrong way. So somebody might use the forward-facing belt path for the rear-facing direction. Sometimes we see them using the top tether rear-facing, and really I think we're the only company now that allows for top tethering rear-facing. There could be 1 or 2 out there still doing that. A lot of companies are going to rebound bars. So so you just have to follow those. And then, of course, we see harness straps not in the right position according to direction. We see them too loose. We see chest clips too low, all those types of things. Chest clips are really important on newborn babies because their shoulders are rounded, and we want those straps to stay on top of the shoulders. And that chest clip helps guide those straps over the shoulders. Okay, great.
What do you see? So here's the question. So about the internet. And I'm
Which we're on right now.
I know we are on the internet, but and if you are on the internet for more than 5 minutes a day, which I hope you are.
You should just be on her page more than 5 minutes a day.
Right. But I mean, nowadays we're so into social media and we're on there, and that's a good way of, we're connecting with each other and everything. But it's also a vehicle for a lot of misinformation to be spread around.
Right.
And car seat safety and car seat the topic is very heated on the internet.
Yes.
And do you see, not to, we'll just very vaguely, what information do you see being put out there that's wrong? That's maybe a safety issue?
Oh, goodness.
Maybe misconceptions or something.
I don't know if I can point out specifically. I hear from other technicians that, I chimed in on this Facebook thread. If anything, I think the biggest problem that I have with the social media channels, like when you posted about needing a new car seat, the amount of comments,
yes,
I would think would be overwhelming for a parent. So I don't know that is helpful to have 300 comments on a simple question about a car seat. But you have people that, first of all, you don't know their credibility giving you information. Right. And then things change all the time with manufacturers. So how do we know that they're not referencing the most up-to-date manual with that specific car seat? The Radiant's been around for 15 years. And so we crash test on a regular basis. And the manuals change because we write it based on the latest test results. And so, you want to watch out for your resource of who that person is. And, and I would ask them for a copy of their certification card. And I would ask them, well, how often do you do car seat checks with other instructors and technicians? Like when I first started out, I was constantly working with groups of people. We had a car seat check every week. We saw 80 to 100 car seats. I had instructors signing me off to say, yes, you checked all the boxes, reinforcing what I was taught in the certification class. And so, but if someone's just out there on their own all the time, not getting checks and balances in place, how do we really know that they are a credible source and not just sitting, behind their keyboard giving answers?
Right. Yeah. And I think, and I'm going to just assume that if you message Diono, their Facebook page or an email or whatever, and you have a general question about its car seat safety, somebody reliable with
either certification, knowledge, or guess who they come to?
You.
Me. Yeah, so
they'll ask Allana.
If it's and most manufacturers are like this. We have a sophisticated software system. When we get a question, then the answer creates a macro. And so then let's just say we have a new customer service rep that hasn't been certified yet, but at least she can reference that question that's already been asked 20,000 times, and she has the same consistent answer. So, but if anything is a little bit more complicated, a little bit outside the realm, then it gets escalated up to myself. And then if I can't answer it, because even though I've been doing this 18 years, I'm always learning. I am directly connected with our engineers. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So maybe if you have a question, instead of just randomly asking your social media connections,
yes,
just message Diono.
Yeah, or any of them.
Then you won't be overwhelmed, or any car seat Facebook page.
And trust that you're getting the right answer. I find that pretty interesting. Like they'll call us and email us, but they'll still take to the internet.
Yeah.
And but I remember, you're going to love this. So before I ever knew anything about car seats, I was a 27-year-old new mom. I had a infant car seat. I tell you, it had fishy pattern and oceans on the fabric because I lived near the ocean in Florida. So I was like, this is appropriate. And I didn't think those engineers knew what they were talking about because I was no engineer. And I didn't think the little hooks would stay on the base. So I never used the base.
Oh.
Why would I think? I mean, I had no idea about crash dynamics. I certainly didn't do well in physics in school. I mean, but you just feel like as a mom, like you know best for your kid. But I'm telling you, if you're not an engineer, you don't know physics, you don't know best. So just trust the manufacturer is what I'm trying to say. But I remember I didn't trust the manufacturer. But we didn't know we had the ability to call the manufacturer either. Now you all should know that the manufacturers have advocates like me on staff. We certify our staff. We want you to come to us. We want you to use our resources.
Yes, and you do know best when it's your individual child and their needs and stuff like that. But when it's a car seat that's been designed by scientists, and it's this is not.
I mean, it takes a long time. It takes 2 to 3 years to develop a car seat, and it goes through all kinds of crash testing. And so, even your pediatrician is not a car seat expert.
Right.
They're a medical expert. So go to the right resources. You wouldn't call your chiropractor, for hanging, what kind of curtains you want to hang in your house. So
right. I mean, and we talk all the time about how even breastfeeding information, and
Oh, yeah.
pediatrician is not the most reliable resource.
Right.
So I mean, there's even when you think that something makes sense, it's not always
exactly
the case.
exactly.
Okay, so
These are easy so far. Give me a hard one.
I don't know what. Well, you tell me what the hard things are,
Yeah.
because these are just some of the things that I think were interesting. Now, used car seats. This is something that I see a lot in my neighborhood groups. Like we have these little, neighborhood groups.
You have a yard sale going
Yes,
on
I
right
know
now.
the
Yeah.
awesome annual yard sale on New Guard. It's my favorite thing. We're gonna go later. My son has saved $20 and he wants to spend it. He's
Nice.
serious. So, but I see people are like, here's my used car seat. Never been in a crash. $50.
Right.
And
So unless you know the source that it's coming from, so if you're borrowing from, a family member, a really longtime friend that you trust, the history of that seat, it hasn't been stored up in an attic where there's extreme temperatures all year round. The labels are still there, the manual, all the parts and pieces. By all means, borrow or buy from a friend or a family member. Buying from a yard sale, consignment shop, off Craigslist, probably not a good idea. The other thing I always talk about too is how do you know that child didn't have lice?
Right.
And obviously you would probably wash the fabric, but not all car seats covers can be washed in the machine. So, just consider that. Probably not a good idea. Always buy new or borrow or buy from a friend or family member that you can trust.
Yeah, I was donating a whole bunch of stuff to a shelter around here, and I knew that they weren't going to take the car seat, but I had it because I was just like, and I was like, because I knew, somebody needs this, but and she was like, we can't take that because we don't know the history of it. So I was like, yeah, I mean,
well,
I
you
was
look
like,
a little shifty.
But I look like I'll be spreading sketchy stuff around the neighborhood. So, okay, and the other thing that I hear a lot about is, and this was going on in my family too, and I'm sure it goes on in all kinds of families, when you've got the kids that are rear facing, they are so dying to forward face.
Yes.
So what's the deal? Because I think we have a lot of kids turning forward maybe too soon.
Yeah, that's always been the case. I remember my child, he was big, so the doctor was like, oh yeah, turning forward facing. Mm-hmm. He was 9 months old. He was like 35 pounds. But you want to live kids rear facing as long as possible. So even the American Academy of Pediatrics and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says keep them rear facing to the maximum height and weight of that rear facing capacity of that car seat. Many states, I think there's like 13 now, require a child to stay rear facing up to 2 years old. But, and then so you have to do it by law in some states. And then if you're not in those states, there's good, better, best practice. You have them in a car seat, great. If you can, keep them rear facing up to 2, that's better. If you can go beyond 2, that's best. So the spinal column hasn't fused together on a child until they're between the age of 3 and 6 years old. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to know unless the pediatrician x-rays them on a regular basis, and they're not going to do that. So, the back of that car seat is supporting the head, the neck, and the spinal column, and they ride down the crash. Even if you had a side impact collision, most side impacts have a frontal component. So again, that seat might kind of go sideways, but it's taking this motion of protecting that head, neck, and spinal column. So then people go, well, what about a rear end collision? Well, because of the way they're reclined, the crash forces are distributed differently, and it's not as impactful as if they're forward facing. If they're forward facing, their heads are being slung forward, and it's putting a lot of stress and strain on that very delicate, fragile spinal cord. So keep them rear facing as long as possible, even if their feet are hitting the seat.
Right. Yes. And it got to my both of my kids were so big that they were having to cross their legs.
Yeah.
And I remember people would say like, well, what if they break their legs? And I said, I'd rather them break their legs than their neck.
Yeah, and statistics show us that the kids aren't breaking their legs rear facing. They are having broken legs forward facing, because guess what? They kick that seat in front of them with such an impact that we see lower leg injuries on front facing kids, and we also see head injuries because their heads are hitting the seat in front of them. So, if you have a small car, you want to be aware of how far back your vehicle seat is. I mean, obviously, we want you comfortable and safely away from the airbag. But, if you're one of these that lays that seat all the way back and, in your kid's lap, that's probably not a good position for either of you. So, because you want your seatbelt touching your collarbone as well.
Yeah, and I remember when we had this little Ford Focus.
Oh, yeah.
And we had one kid, and so we would, we were like rear face till college, we're going to rear face forever. And so we had him, but it was such a tiny car, so we had him rear facing behind the passenger's side. So then my husband would always drive because he's very tall.
Right.
So then I would sit there squished, and then we had another child. And then we were literally like, we need a new car.
We got a new car. Yeah.
And then we were bringing these big, the big car seats, the Rainier is what I have. And the rear face, and I was like, we got to bring this to the car shop. And so we're sticking them in the cars, and they're like, those are big car seats. Yeah. And I'm like, no, they're just rear facing. You're not used to seeing it because people just aren't doing it.
So rear facing as long as possible. You don't. They'll be fine. They're used to it. They don't. If you don't, tell them any different, then I mean, I do have people that go, well, they really want to go forward facing. I'm like, did they? They're 9 months old. I'm like, did they say that exactly? Just kidding. Sorry, but
Yeah, the struggle in my house was when my 7-year-old reached. He's pretty small for his age, so he was all the way. He was rear facing for, maybe it was not 7, but anyway, he was rear facing all the way to the limits.
Right. So usually on our seat, it's less than an inch and a half from the top of the head to the top of the shell. Generally speaking, once they're within 1 inch, then it's time to turn them forward facing.
Okay. So so then we turned him around.
Or their knees are up in their chest. Then it's time to go forward facing.
So he was then we're like, okay, we're turning around, big day, celebration, you get to forward face. But his brother wasn't big enough yet. So he was still real rear facing, and he was just like mad as a hornet all the time. And I was like, it's just a safety issue.
To me, I thought it would be better because then they can see each other.
Oh yeah, but I don't think they want to see.
No, they compete. It's competitive,
Then they just
I think if you just drive home that safety message to the kids on a regular basis and not just say no, but explain to them why you're saying no, so that and that's the same thing with adult learning. I don't just say keep them rear facing. I just explain to you why rear facing is safer, and just give them that definition and explain to them. And I had one that was just a car seat compliant kid, and the other one just screamed bloody murder. And I used to just kind of pat him after I snugged him up and said, you got to sit tight to stay safe. And that's why I named my nonprofit Sit Tight. But I would just whisper that every single time and just be real consistent and not give up. And we would just drive down the road, he'd scream his head off. But don't take your kid out of a car seat while you're driving. Don't breastfeed while you're driving or riding.
That's another thing that I think I see a lot on my page is the like, oh, look what I can do. They're sitting in the back seat and leaning over and nursing the baby while they're in the car seat.
You don't want to be out of position in that seatbelt. That seatbelt is designed a certain way to hit the strongest parts of your body, which is the pelvic bones and the shoulder belt. So you can potentially also become a detriment to your child because now you're out of position and you're not restrained. And so you can, weight times speed equals force. So if you weigh 100 pounds and all of a sudden you stop at 10 miles an hour, that's 1,000 pounds that is loose.
Yeah, you become a projectile in the car.
So none of us drive 10 miles an hour. So multiply that a little bit further. I didn't want to do hard math this morning. I got up early.
We get it. It's really not safe. So I know it's really convenient, and like if the car's not moving and the baby's like, almost asleep, and it would be easier to get through this hour-long, baby napping, that's fine. Then once the car is moving, everybody's got to be in their seat.
Just pull over to a safe spot and, unbuckle. You'll be comfortable too. I mean, it's better bonding as well to hold baby and nurse them.
Yeah, right.
In a calm manner.
Let's see.
I think I saw a question. Somebody was having a hard time installing our cup holder in the
Oh,
seat.
the Radiant RXT. Yeah,
I'll
that's
do
right.
a quick video and I'll throw it up on. I'll have our social media manager throw it up on our Instagram account or wherever, and I'll do one of those and I'll show because it's just a little, it's about the angle, pushing it in and then twisting it, and it locks in place. So you kind of face it towards you, go down into the little hole, and then turn it, and it stays in there. It's just a little trick.
Okay,
so
good.
I'll do a video for you.
Okay, good. So she'll I don't remember the name of the person who answered that question, but that's coming. So here's the other thing is that I was always having complicated feelings about was bringing the car seat on an airplane.
Okay.
So what do you do? What do you recommend as far as like airline travel?
So I'm on an airplane pretty much every other week on average, so I do a lot of flying. I have to put everything up that weighs more than 2 pounds. It's got to be secured, either up in the overhead bin, not even in my back seat pocket, under the seats in front of me, or in the overhead bin. So laws of physics don't change just because you're on an airplane. And if anything, they increase exponentially because now you're taking off at 250 miles an hour. And while planes don't really crash that much, at least big commercial planes, most of those crashes that we've heard about, for the last 30 years about 85% of them happen on takeoff and landing. Mm-hmm. And that's where you want your child secured. So I definitely encourage you to, put your car seat on the airplane and restrain your child. Number one, you'll be more comfortable, baby will be more comfortable, and, God forbid, it's just that fluky thing that we're having a bad landing, bad takeoff. I mean, I've been on a takeoff where all of a sudden we've hit the brakes. Yeah. Turbulence can be, knock on wood, I have not been, in 8 years, I have not had a horrible turbulent experience, but I have in the past, and we've dropped 1,000 feet.
Yes,
and so, you can't hold on to your baby. And so just for that peace of mind, get them in that car seat. I remember the plane that went into the Hudson River, Mom, thankfully it was a good turnout, but the mother was like, oh my God, if I had had the car seat on the airplane, she actually had another gentleman hold that baby. I get goosebumps just thinking about it, and he was able to hold on to her. But it could have been a much worse outcome, and there have been bad outcomes. There's actually a retired flight attendant that has been trying for years, ever since the Sioux Fall crash, to have it, legalize it. You have to have your car seat on the airplane. So it makes it tough because not all car seats can fit on every airplane. Mm-hmm. And anyway, it's just, a lot of them are certified to be used on an airplane. So just know that. There's a label. It has to be written on the label on the outside of the car seat, and we'll have it in the manual if it's approved to be used on the airplane. And it just makes for easier travel.
But nobody on the airplane is going to make you do it.
No.
There's not, flight attendant's not going to say, oh, there's a baby, you got to put the baby in the car seat. This is something that you're going to have to take charge of and get the baby in the car seat.
Yeah, and if you just want to be prepared, I know some people have had a hard time where a flight attendant says, well, you can't do that, which is just crazy. But I believe the car seat lady has a nice document that she created.
Oh, nice.
That basically says, here's the FAA recommendations, and so you'll have that in hand. I don't think that happens very often anymore, but it has happened, and especially if you go to Europe. They're definitely not big proponents of it. They just think it's kind of silly, so, but I would definitely put your child in a car seat while you're on an airplane.
And then because on the other side, if you're traveling with your child somewhere and then you're going to rent a car or whatever, then you're renting car seats from a rental place. How is that?
Well, that could be bad. I had a call a few months ago. A friend landed in San Francisco. She goes, oh, we rented this car seat from the rental car agency. They don't have instructions. And I don't know where the labels were on the car seat, so that was a little questioning. I just think if you have your own car seat, you know how to install it, you'll get to your destination, you'll be prepared, and plus your child is in their element and their usual car seat. And so, true. Because traveling for kids is difficult. You're totally uprooting them and changing their whole routine. It's hard enough as an adult. So just think about your child. So at least they have the familiarity of their own car seat, and how it feels and how it smells and how the harness fits.
That's a good point.
And so I mean, traveling with kids is not easy. I mean, we don't have kids for convenience. And I assure you, I have a 15 and a 23-year-old. It goes by pretty quickly. So just be prepared that the trip is not going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And don't anticipate this is just going to be smooth sailing. I'm all organized. I've got this, and this. Something's going to go haywire, and just laugh along with it. And don't worry about those people that are giving you dirty looks. I mean, I usually try to go help a parent when I see them with kids because I just know it's
I know
tough.
it's terrible, especially on an airplane. Like when you walk onto an airplane with a kid, everybody's just like, "Oh God, please don't sit by me."
I have Bose headsets now, so I just put on my headset, and listen to my podcast or my music. I mean,
that's good.
It doesn't bother me. I just, maybe that's the mom in me, but I mean, they can't help it.
No, we can't help it. Everybody knows that. I think that's all.
Wow. That was good.
What about, do you have any, what's like a difficult question that you get? Because my questions weren't difficult for you.
I don't know that I mean, they're general. It's pretty much what you covered now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess people hesitate, always on price point. Do I have to spend so much money all the time? You don't have to spend a lot of money, but, obviously we are a premium brand, so we present a premium product. And some people like things to match their car, and they want their kids to have just as much luxury as they have for their things. And so we provide that along with those extra safety features as well. So kind of getting the whole shebang when you do spend a little bit more money. But I don't want a parent to feel bad if they can't afford, the $300 car seat. Just get that car seat in there correctly. You can, definitely do it yourself. Don't feel bad about paying for services if the company is a really good resource, because I tell people all the time, you're going to pay for ballet lessons, you're going to pay for soccer lessons, swimming lessons. This is a life-saving lesson that you're getting from a true professional. So why not pay them a little bit of a fee to help give you that peace of mind that you actually did it correctly? I do lots of videos with our seat, but it's a general video because all cars are different. They have different seatbelt systems, different vehicle seat pitches, and all that stuff. So every car seat doesn't fit into every car, and every car seat doesn't fit every child. But we're here to help you technicians are here to help you navigate that. So if somebody has started their own business and they're out there in the community, feel free to don't feel bad about writing a check to them. That it might be worth your child's life. So definitely would do that. But no, I think you covered the gamut of things. We could talk about, not that it's cold yet, but we could talk about winter coats.
Oh yes,
that's always a biggie.
One, yeah.
That's always a biggie. We don't want to put kids in big puffy coats because that creates a lot of loose harness during a crash. All that fabric is going to actually compress and you actually have a loose harness. So always put your child in one layer, put the harness on them, snug and comfortable where you can't pinch the webbing here at the collarbone. It doesn't have to be super duper tight, snug and comfortable. Then throw a blanket on top of them or put their coat on, backwards.
That's the trick I love is take your coat off and then get in the seat and then put it on backwards.
I mean, they're not, even if it's 5 below, they're not going to die going from, this door to the car out there. And I think that's what people panic.
Yes.
Oh my God, they're going to get sick.
Even a tiny baby.
Yeah.
I mean, you put a blanket on and you get to the car, it's fine. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're staying out there for hours.
And I think most of the time we're overdressing.
Yes.
Our babies are getting hot.